Hey, what is up, YouTubers and lovers of budget bikes and cars, and welcome back to another super budget car for 2018. Something I've just picked up purely because I needed a quick runaround car, something nice and cheap but still relatively sporty and funky, not crazy spaceship miles, not needing a huge amount of work. Effectively, my other car, my mother's car, needed some work doing on it, so we needed another car so I can get her up there and give her a run around. So I bought this relatively local as usual, just 10-15 miles away, so jumped on the train, popped up there. Nice young lad. Story is, it was his girlfriend and his car. They've upgraded to an X3 BMW, so this was kind of surplus to requirements. Quite a young couple in their early 20s, I would say. Absolutely perfect scenario when somebody's got an older car and they've upgraded and they want something, you know, they want to get rid of the one they had before, kind of thing, because they will take an offer on it because they want it off their driveway, so they've got room for other stuff, and you know, they just don't need it, so it doesn't hold any kind of residual value for them. They just want to get a half decent price and move it on, you know. And that's where I came in, basically. And as I said, I just needed something cheap and cheerful just to get me through, you know, the next few months. And this one actually had, I mean, this is a 2005, I forgot to tell you, it's a 2005 Vauxhall Corsa 1.4. Again, I mean, I did the, is it the Corsa D? This is the Corsa C. So I did the 1.4 6 months ago. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. But I fancied having a look at one of these because they are so incredibly cheap. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But when I was living abroad about 10 years ago, there was an English girl that was working with me there, and she bought one of these brand new, a 1.6 twin port, and she bought it brand new on HP, and she loved it. It was great. They'd only just come out, you know, and she was really happy with it. And I had a little drive in it. I always thought they were really funky, and I always fancied having one. But then I went and bought the newer model, again, which is in my videos if you want to check that out. Now, being the 1.4, obviously it's cheaper on insurance. Tax is about 80 quid every 6 months. Very good on petrol, but surprisingly quick. If you going back to the other video, the other Vauxhall Corsa 1.4, I did complain that was really slow and sluggish. I think it was a 1.4 anyway. I hope it wasn't a 1.2. I'm pretty sure it was a 1.4, as this is, but it was incredibly sluggish. Now this, I had to double check on the logbook that it is a 1.4 because it's really rapid. I don't know if the twin port aspect of that makes any difference. I haven't read up on it, to be honest. As I said, it was just a stopgap car. But it's really rapid. I mean, it's 3,000 revs at 70 miles an hour. Again, with Vauxhall, I mean, if you remember the Astra I did and the other Corsa and this, really quiet cabin, which does surprise me. I mean, I've got no problems with Vauxhalls. Prior to the Corsa, I'd never really had a Vauxhall. And now I've had the Astra and this, so 3 in all in the last 12-18 months, and I've got nothing but good things to say about them. You know, I would never hesitate to buy another Vauxhall. It's just a shame that they don't make them just a little bit more modern, shall we say, because the Vectra is horrible. They've got the Meriva, which is a family car. They've got the Corsa and the Astra and a couple of others I can't remember, but they're just a bit dull, aren't they, really, Vauxhalls, generally speaking, unless you go for the Corsa VXR. But again, for a specific kind of age group on those, I did consider one, if I'm honest, but even people on the forum said, you know, it would look a bit odd, a guy of my age driving around in a Vauxhall Corsa VXR, so I kind of didn't want to, you know, have that stigma attached to me. But then, as I said, this one turned up. It's got 105,000 miles with a decent service history. It's had some work done on it. No advisories on the last MOT. It's only got an MOT until December, but because it didn't have any advisories on the last MOT, I just kind of took a chance on it and thought, well, you know, it can't be that bad. It's got a couple of little problems. Since I've had it, I've done the headlights. They were yellowing, and I've done those. I think you'll agree they came out all right. And I also changed the headlights as usual. I won't show you them because it's kind of pointless, really. But these little side light bulbs here, you wouldn't believe the trouble you have to go through to change those. Effectively, you've got to jack the car up, get the wheels off, get the front bumper off, and then pull the lights out just to change the bulb and put it all back together. It took me a good hour just to change 2 light bulbs, which is just fucking ludicrous. But it's done, you know. Had I not been considering keeping this car for a little run around for a while, I probably wouldn't have bothered. But as I said, I'm going to keep this for a little while because it's cheap and cheerful, you know. The only issue I've found, and it may actually be me, but as you can see on that left hand side there's a bigger gap there under the light than there is there. Now that light is actually broken. There's 2 little clip. I might actually be able to show you, in case you've got any interest in that. We'll have a look at the interior in a minute, but when I was looking around at this yesterday afternoon to change the bulbs, I did notice that that little clip there has broken, as you can see. Now whether I put too much glue on there and lifted the light up, rather down slightly, and just got it arse about tip, I don't think it's going to affect the MOT. I'm bloody hoping not, but I guess time will tell. We'll find out in December. Nice easy job to change the oil on here as well. As you can see, there's your filter, piece of piss. Nice little Ecotec 1.4 engine, nothing to shout about. These strut tower tops here as well, they were really rusty, so I painted them with black Amorite just to make them look a little bit less horrible. There is a bit of rust going on in here, as you can see down here, the front subframe. Normally I would check all those kind of things prior to buying the car, but as it wasn't mentioned in the last MOT, I kind of didn't bother, which was a bit silly really, because that can be an advisory on MOT, so I should have looked at that. But then when I tell you the price in a minute, you'll see why I didn't really go too far into it. I've also painted the rear hubs in a silver Amorite, and of course I did the front brake calipers as well and give it all a bit of a clean up. Decent tyres. It's got a little scratch here and it's got a bit of a bigger one here which I've tried to polish out, but that is really deep. That's not going to come out unless I pay somebody to do it, and I'm not going to. Basically, I've always liked the back of these cars as well, with these lights, you know, this kind of tinted light affair that goes on in here. You know, I just think it looks nice for a stock one. Well, I can't open the boot for you, unfortunately, because I've not got the keys on me. Well, I have obviously, but not in my pocket. But as you can see, it's quite a funky little car, I think, really. Considering it's 10 years old, I mean, it's got a couple of little knocks and bangs. I mean, it's tinted rear windows as well. There's another little knock there, which I could probably polish out if I could be bothered. The wheels, they're all a bit scuffed, and every single wheel is missing its tyre cap. The valve cap. I've no idea why. I mean, I could go over the top with this, with the wheel arch trims here. I could back to black those. I've got some special stuff to do that. I probably won't bother, to be fair, because it's just a little runaround, as I said. But it's got it's the exclusive model, but it's got a bit of the side skirts, as you can see, a little bit sportier. I think the front bumper with this looks like a splitter, but it's not, kind of affair. I think that's a bit of a sporty aspect as well, with front fogs obviously. Let's have a little look in the back, in the front rather. Now, full leather interior as well. It's very unusual on a little car like this. I don't really like leather interior, if I'm honest, not on a little car like this. It's alright in a Jag or a Beamer, but not in a little Corsa. I just don't see the point in it. A little bit of damage to the seat. Someone's obviously trying to fix that at some point as well. The good thing about the seats is they're heated. There's the little buttons down there. But it's, generally speaking, a nice little place to be. As I said, heated seats down there. It's got a USB power outlet there. I have got a new gator coming as well for the gear knob, because that'll just tidy that little area up. Half decent stereo, heads up, well, not a heads up, but you know, top display up there. But again, it's, let me see if I can find the keys and you'll see what I mean. I mean, going back to the Peugeot 207 GTI video I did, everything's orange. I'm hoping you can see that. Everything's orange, which is a bit dated, to be honest. But again, that reinforces what I said about the 207 GTI, that, you know, considering that was the top of the range 207, it had the same kind of dash layout as this, which I just thought was bloody bizarre. Again, as I said, the seats are a little bit worn here and there, but you've got electric windows at the front for both, front and rear fog lights. Relatively sporty steering wheel with some nice white dials as well. CD player, no aircon, just a bog standard heater and cold air. I put some LEDs in there as well, just because I could, basically. But you know, as I said, it's relatively sporty. I've got some new mats coming, obviously, because they're crap. It was a young girl's car, so that's that purple aspect. I don't know what's going on with that, but generally speaking, comfy, really comfy little car. As you can see, I have been using it, hence why there's dog leads in it and all that kind of stuff. I don't have any problem with these cars, especially not with the price they are now. I mean, this is the 2005, 105,000 miles on it. I'm 99.9% sure these are timing belts on these, but I've had a look under the engine and I can't see the cover for it. So I'm going to look into that again. If it needs doing, I'll do it. It's going to be a couple of £100 on an old car like this. And then you've got 60,000 miles, which will probably outlast the car, to be fair. There's no record of it ever being done, and I believe with the Vauxhalls it's 10 years or 100,000 miles, so it is due, well overdue actually. It should have been done in 2015, or going by mileage it should have been done 5,000 miles ago, if it's a timing belt. I'm pretty sure it is. I can't see no reason why it wouldn't be, because most Vauxhalls are. But as I said, I looked underneath the bonnet and I couldn't see where the cover was for the timing chain, or the timing belt rather. So I'll look more into that when I can be bothered. Now, there's a couple of tiny little bits I've still got to do. I'm going to get some wheel nut covers just to fit over those rusty old bolts. They're a £5 off eBay, nothing to be concerned about. And as I said, there's a couple of little scuffs here and there which I'm not going to worry about. But again, looking at the car, we're going to do a quick walk around. Tinted rear windows, tinted rear lights, nice 2 doors, sporty-ish, cheap little coupe. What's not to like? I've also ordered some oil and a new filter, so I'm going to do an oil change on it myself, because it's a piece of piss, and it was £19.99 off eBay for the oil and the filter. Again, can't argue with that, can you? New wipers coming as well, the Aeroflow wipers. Got a set of those, 2 for the front, 1 for the rear. And there she is. So 2005 Vauxhall Corsa C 1.4 exclusive, whatever that means, with leather seats and relatively low mileage for the year, I would say. And that came into me at an astonishing £630. I kid you not, £630 bought me this car. I probably could have got a little bit of money knocked off, but I didn't even want to argue with the guy. You know, he had it up for 800. I knocked him down a little bit because of the low MOT that was left on it, and the headlights were a bit manky, and you know, he was looking dirty. He'd just been parked outside his house since he bought his X3, and he just wanted it shifted. So we came up with a pretty odd figure, I suppose, in hindsight, 630 quid. 85 quid to tax it. Insurance is piss cheap as well. I think it was 200 quid for the year, and that's about it really. I mean, I can't see me spending much more money on this. There's only one mechanical issue, which is very common on these apparently, which has popped it up, which is changing from first to second. There's a slight clunking underneath the car. Now that can be one of 3 things. It could be the linkage. I don't think it doesn't feel like linkage to me. It could be a gearbox mount, which is the way I'm leaning, because it feels like that kind of movement, so I'm thinking gearbox mount. It could also be a track rod joint. One of them could have gone slightly, because apparently that can cause it as well. Just looking on the forums, you know, I googled it and that's what people have come up with. Again though, you know, there's a million of these about. Parts are dirt cheap, you can get them used, so I can't imagine it costing more than about 100 quid to fix. A couple of 100 quid for the timing belt if it needs it. So all told, less than £1,000, and you'd have a new timing belt, the clunking sorted out. This car would be good for another 50,000 miles, I should think, with an oil change. I can't see no reason why not. You know, it's got no other problems. It drives very, very smoothly, considering it's nearly 19 years old and it's done 100,000 miles. It still looks pretty cool, I think, personally. So if you're looking for a cheap runabout, as I was when I found this, you could do a lot bloody worse, to be fair. I mean, all that for just over 600 quid, and cheap parts, cheap labour. Well, not cheap labour, labour's never cheap, is it? But stuff you can do yourself is obviously cheap. The only thing that was a pain in the arse was changing the front side light bulbs. That's the only kind of issue I found. And also, just a quick heads up, I did a degrease job on the engine when I got it, because it was looking a bit manky down there. And I left it and I went to start it this morning, and something went horribly wrong. It was running on 3 cylinders, the engine light came on, and I was thinking, oh crap, what have I done here? So I got it back home again. I checked all the sensors, the MAF sensors, the coil packs, all that kind of stuff, made sure everything was bone dry, blew a few of them out, disconnected the battery for about 10 minutes, reconnected everything back up. Lo and behold, engine light went out and it's running beautifully again. So I couldn't tell you what it was, but it did happen. I don't know what fixed it, whether it was the battery reset, as in it reset the ECU, whether it was one of the sensors that I just blew a bit of moisture out of. So if it does happen to you, just look into all that. You know, it was a bit freaky. It always is a bit freaky when you get an engine management light come on and your car's running like a bag of crap, but it was nothing, you know, and now it's back to being not perfect, of course, but 630 quid, well, there you go. I'm probably going to keep this outside my house for short journeys to go to the gym and the supermarket, walk the dogs, that kind of stuff. So if you're looking for a cheap little run around, you could do a lot worse than this little Vauxhall Corsa 1.4 exclusive. Any questions? As always, drop them in the comments if you've got one of these and you've got any kind of comments on the stuff that I've mentioned, or you just want to say hi, drop it in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed, then do so, because we're getting getting quite high now, nearly 800 subscribers, which is a bit of a surprise because it's just a bit of fun for me after all this. I'm not doing it to make money. It's just a bit of a laugh and to show you what you can get and my thoughts on some of these cars and bikes. Alrighty, look out for the next video. I imagine that'll be in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and thanks for watching. Take care now.